taste of ketchup, it tastes of mustard, it tastes of Thousand Island dressing. This is a freaking Big Mac.
Yeah.
I literally got McDonald's from this.
Yeah, right.
I thought about it.
Really? That's not gonna work. Alright, whatever.
This is McDonald's in a pipe.
It's not. I don't know if you're wrong on that. It
I
might
asked
be.
for no pickles. So maybe that's why.
Yeah, it's under what's the face's tongue. Pickles is there?
Oh my gosh.
It actually tastes like it.
No, I just forgot all about that SpongeBob from so long ago.
You forgot the pickles.
You forgot the pickles! The best there is.
Welcome back to another podcast.
Welcome back to the Chuba Brothers. Today we're covering a topic similar to the one we covered last time. I mean, it's really a different topic, but we're just covering this. It's the same sort of like talking about that thin line between a vice and a virtue, on the excess and then being deprived of it. So
the topic will be self-indulging versus self-improvement.
yeah, where's that thin line between, oh, you know, I'm just obsessed with improving myself, or rather, I'm just trying to improve myself, and when does that become the self-indulgent? And so that's what we're going to be talking about today in today's podcast.
And some of the reference we'll be mentioning is, if you've ever seen the movie Fight Club, and we'll throw up probably a quick clip of like the main parts of it, where like
Tyler Durden.
Yeah, Tyler Durden, but like it is like where you go from trying to improve yourself to now you're just basically. See, I don't know if we really want to say those words. That you know what I'm saying, like.
Yeah, let's just avoid that.
Okay.
There comes a point where, with everything, and let's just get into it with this. In pretty much every aspect of life, there's a point, at least in the Christian paradigm, the traditional Christian paradigm for the Orthodox, for the Catholic. Again, I can't say much about the Protestants because there's like 37,000 different denominations. They all believe in, well, technically there's like as many Protestant denominations as there are Protestants because it's scripture, you know, whatever you want to interpret from scripture, that's like your own religion. So we just, you know, avoid that. But the traditional Christian, in the traditional Christian paradigm, there's this belief that nature is ordered. We're part of nature. Everything is ordered. And in this paradigm, there's a path that you're supposed to follow in every aspect of life. And then if you're deprived of anything, that's a sin. And if you're doing anything in excess, that's a sin.
Yeah.
You
just need to go right between the like basically just travel right on that line.
Yeah, and a lot of life is bouncing back from extreme to excess, or from excess to the deprivation, and then back and forth, and then you find yourself in the virtuous center, and that's the path to heaven.
Because, like, if you don't try to improve yourself, you're basically just stale. Like, you're not doing anything to really test yourself. And, like, the whole point of being on this earth is to test yourself. Like we were saying with the our last topic with Andrew Tate and the Amish, where, like, you don't want to completely get rid of something because you're tempted.
And then you don't, then almost I'm like, that's almost like the extreme conservative side is avoid absolutely everything that could lead you to sin, including like civilization itself. Yeah. And that's sort of the Puritans are like, you know, the Amish was our example in our last film. Go check it out. It was our last video. They go, technology, bad. Everything past this point. Civilization, bad past this point. We're going to hide out in the woods, essentially. And again, we like the Amish.
Yeah.
You're smoking some Pennsylvania Dutch treat.
Mm-hmm.
They're technically called the Pennsylvania Dutch.
Yep.
We shop at the Amish all the time around here. For all of our honey, actually, the honey for this mead was made by the Amish, but they're not allowed drinking alcohol, so they can't even ferment.
Yeah, so they don't even get to actually enjoy it.
The fruits of it.
Yeah, like their whole style of living is great, but their beliefs, yeah.
And then on the liberal side, it's almost like we're never going to be able to do this, so just give up, and then just self-indulge. And so you got to find that safe space in the middle.
So some of the things you can say is like self-improvement is like,
We'll talk about it, yeah.
we'll just jump into like some of the self-improvement and then like how it can lead into like self-indulgence. So like we can even talk about like reading, for instance.
Yeah.
Like you want to improve your knowledge, being literate, and like where would be the fine line to where it's like, I think we even talked about there's a point where like you're learning stuff that has nothing to really even, you're basically learning for almost pleasure, where it's like you just want to know everything. We talked about
at least in the Catholic tradition, there is a lot of warning towards too much knowledge, almost like the worship of knowledge, and then knowledge that you're not actually going to put into action.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of writings from saints on this. Even I think it was Imitation of Christ, one of the most popular books ever written by Thomas Kempis, I think. I forget. I was reading it last year. It's a small little booklet that Catholics typically read. And most of it, I mean, there's tons of quotes of the Bible in there, obviously. And it talks about a lot the warning towards too much knowledge, and in the end, like a lot of like philosophers that are obsessed over knowledge, yet they don't give money to their neighbor.
Yeah.
Like what's the point of knowing all these things if you're not even going to get to heaven?
Yeah, basically, like what I see is like a lot of people, because I've caught myself almost doing that, where like I want to know a little bit about everything so I can have a conversation about everything, like be able to put my like 2 cents in a conversation, but it's like when I'm talking about it, I'm like, why do I even know this? And like it has nothing to do. I mean, you can even think about like if you're gonna learn about outdoor stuff and you never go outdoors, what's the point of actually knowing that information?
Yeah, and I think most people who spend a lot of time paying attention to politics.
Yeah. What's the point if you're not going to be
I believe that so many people in America and in the West in general are actually overindulging in that way of paying attention to all the sensational stuff, and like they're like reaffirming to themselves, I got to pay attention. This is for, even though like everyone knows who they're voting for. I mean,
you might stumble upon
if they're
very little bit of information to maybe like
you don't have to pay attention
solidify your stance and who you're going to be voting for, but like what else, like what this person's running for. You already know, like, especially nowadays where the line is completely like we're not even similar to the Republicans and Democrats aren't even similar to each other at all. They're on complete opposite sides. So like you already know where you're going.
Yeah, I know that there's like this theory that there's like this independent middle that they don't really know who they're voting for.
Yeah,
I think that most of those people are just gutless, spineless swine for the most part. They're just looking to someone to vote for, whoever's just going to give them what they want.
Yeah,
my opinion, of course. If you're on the right, you're voting right. If you're on the left, you're voting left. Yes, there's little intricacies. Like obviously the Trump versus DeSantis thing coming up. People don't really know who they're voting for, and I can kind of see you don't have to be paying attention for 2 to 3 years daily on the news. Whenever you probably don't even pray every single day. The people that are into that kind of stuff.
And a lot of this information
and
too.
That's the sin of sloth. If you're putting aside, the spiritual for the material. It's all bread and circuses, really. I mean, it's just like
just to have a conversation.
Because I was there
once a month too.
I remember thinking to myself, because it is a sin to not pay attention to anything.
Yeah.
And just
to be oblivious.
Yeah. Because I think it was Plato or Aristotle who said that if you don't pay attention to politics is going to pay attention to you, or something, or no, you're going to be led by your inferiors if you don't pay attention to politics. And it's like, okay, we can all see that. So you have to pay attention at least somewhat, stay in tune with things, but in the end, 99.9% of people have no effect over what goes on
in your daily life, probably.
Well, just like in politics, like your vote, you're one of 600 million votes, you think that like you should dedicate your entire life to listening to the news. I mean, that's assuming that the election system is even legit.
Yeah.
And I think that the longer this whole sham goes on, the more and more like it really doesn't seem like it to me. But no, that just sort of goes into
The self-indulgent.
the self-indulgent in the reading, like you were saying.
Yeah, like you get into reading to improve yourself on certain things, and then all of a sudden, like you're so indulged in like, I mean, okay, you have reading, and then another topic you can talk about is like fitness. Like you get into working out and eating healthy for improvement, but then there's like people I know where it's like that is their life. Like they dedicate every single day, every single week, every month, every year to just eating healthy, working out. But like unless you're doing like a bodybuilding meet or like a powerlifting meet, like it almost, there's the line, you can cross that line so quick where it's like you're doing this for like we've
It's no longer self-improvement.
yeah, we've gone to the gym with, I mean, even when we started, like first couple years, probably 2 or 3 years, 4 years, we'd see these people that go to the gym all the time, and it's like they come in there, they always look the same, they dedicate like 2 hours to the gym daily, yeah, monthly, and then it's like to what end? So like we caught ourselves doing that. We started working out just to like for health reasons, but then we're like, okay, I remember there's a point where I'm like, okay, if I'm not going to get something at the end of this, like why am I doing this? Like,
yeah, for me it was hockey ended.
yeah,
I've been physically active my entire life. I need somewhere to put this energy.
Mhm.
And so I went to that, and then
we were both like, basically you said like, how will we, really dedicate ourselves? If we're going to be dedicating the gym 5-6 days a week, let's do a powerlifting meet, bodybuilding meet, which we end up doing.
but the muscle memory was like always the thing in my mind. I'm like, if muscle memory exists, and as far as I can tell it does,
Yeah.
I've noticed it in my own life. Why don't I try to get as fit as I possibly can right now? So my body like almost has the blueprint of what is necessary, and to maintain. And so we both did bodybuilding competitions years ago. Like 4 or 5 years? 5 years ago for me.
Well, I think it's
4
like,
years
yeah,
ago.
it's
4
like
years
3
ago for
years
me.
now. Yeah, it was 2 or
It was right as we were, right as we moved in.
Okay.
So from that point forward, it has been so easy for me to get back to a very similar place to where I was, and pretty much for the rest of my life, it's almost like an investment to like go as hard as you can in your like mid-20s, get to like a peak point, and then just don't become a degenerate after. Like just, I mean, like in these videos we're always smoking and drinking, but like we can do this because of the work that we already put in, and like the knowledge that we have of like
What
if
to
I
eat.
wake up after a night of eating so much food, basically overindulging in some alcohol, some smokes, some food, and wake up the next morning, I already know like, okay, I'm probably just gonna do a 24-hour fast, and then I'm gonna eat a bunch of protein, and it's gonna be right back to where I was, or maybe I'll do the protein first, probably the protein first,
Yeah,
and then I'll fast.
It's not even like, it's not.
My body knows
It's
how
like
to adapt
second.
to that.
Yeah, it's like second nature, where like you get up and it's like you're so in tune to doing it all the time that it actually takes no effort at all to even do it. Like I can wake up after, like you said, smoking and drinking, not feeling 100% because these two things together. If you do too much of it in the night that you're doing it, like you wake up, you're slower than you usually are. You're not as quick.
Yeah.
And
And that's another thing. I know. Well, we know our bodies pretty well at this point. I know that like if
because
I
of that.
Yeah, because of that.
Lifting and
Yeah, you don't really truly know yourself. I think it was Aristotle or Socrates. What was this quote? Something like, "Well, know thyself," and then like there's a quote about like the importance of knowing your physical capabilities.
the unexamined life.
Well,
type of
I
thing.
guess there's just some
There's
quotes
many.
of them. But we at least got the opportunity to really know ourselves, like physically, hormonally, biologically. Like during those times where like we're running off of nothing but like chicken and rice and eggs for like months at a time. We know like where the inflammation normally goes and how we normally feel, and like what can I do in the gym over the course of a couple years, and then now that those years are over, we know when we feel off. Like whenever we have like a drinking night, we'll eat some crappy food. I know that I can't do anything mentally the next day.
Yep.
My attention span is not where it should be, so I don't even try.
And that's exactly what we just did I think it was the last podcast we did, where after the podcast, we continued drinking and smoking. And the next day, I knew not even to try to even fight what was going on. I was like, you know what, this will be finally a day where I just don't use my brain, kind of more like just...
do chores mainly.
Yeah.
There's probably like 75% of our lives that can just be completely throw in headphones, listen to a podcast, and like clean your room, or like sit in traffic and go shopping, and like grocery shopping, and go to the sauna and the gym, and then work.
It's like an unproductive day, but a different type of productive, where it's like this stuff needs to get done, but like just choose this day to do it because your brain is you're not as sharp. Things can't get done as quick. And, I mean, that's exactly like.
But just to get back on topic here.
So we did the lifting, the reading.
The example of I forget which saint said this.
Okay.
I was going to say the self-improvement, and where does that become self-indulgent? Now, like I said, I can't remember which saint was saying this, but I think it was actually Thomas Aquinas, at least, mentions this with food, and I believe like sexual activity, where just because you get pleasure from something does not necessarily mean it's a sin. He talks about how you shouldn't feel bad about yourself if you're eating food and getting pleasure from it, because that is like completely natural.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of, are you doing the thing for the sake of pleasure itself? In I don't know if it's just all Catholic theology, because there's a lot of different schools of thought in Catholicism, and then there's like one Catholic doctrine, but there's different ways of like thinking about things, and it's a very complex religion. But like, just to be a basic follower, you don't need to know any of this stuff, but the more you look into it, it's endless, the amount of thinkers and different ways of thinking. But back on topic, there's the ordered way of eating. So like for sexuality, like for marriage, you get married for, first, the procreative act.
Mm-hmm. I
believe the second thing is domestic comfort, and then the third thing is like the sexual, basically the sexual aspect of it. There's a lot of theological terms that I'm blanking on here, but those things have to be in that order. Same with like food and sex itself. Sex has to be procreative in nature first, and then everything after that. With food, it's sustenance first, and then but it's okay to but it's natural to get the pleasure from it. So but once you switch that hierarchy, this is the whole way of thinking of the whole philosophy of first things. Keep first things first.
Yeah.
As soon as you switch the hierarchy of there's been philosophers that have talked about this and thought about this for years.
I know this quote.
To where they're able to rank what is the most natural for humans in our nature. And once you switch any part of that hierarchy, then you end up losing the whole thing. If you're just eating for pleasure, the sustenance part completely, you dissolve.
I think this is St. Augustine that said this.
Well, a lot of them refer to this stuff. I just know Thomas Aquinas wrote the Summa, and it's volumes, and it's very legalistic, but like it basically covers like everything.
Yeah, he talks about if you put first things first, second things will come in. But he's like, if you put second things first, then
you lose like all of it.
Yeah.
And eventually, at least.
Which I can see that. So like, even if you think about, so if we're gonna focus on the food thing, if you're, I think I mentioned last time, like McDonald's, if you're going to like every single day after work, you're going to fast food restaurants. Now you're not going for
food,
like sustaining like the energy, like 'cause you got to eat. You keep your energy, feeling good, everything, the aspects of vitamin, everything that comes with eating food. If you're going to McDonald's, I mean, I would say at least, I would say McDonald's, but like fast food in general is like 4 or 5 times a week. You're not eating, you're not putting the first things first. You're putting second things first now. Like you're going for just the pleasure, not the actual reason
and
of
then it's
eating.
just a matter of time before you lose all of it.
Yeah.
You need to like completely restart your life. It's you can survive by having your day of like enjoying, having like dessert or something like that.
Yeah.
Like
Like
as
we-
Catholics, we believe in fasting days and then celebration days. So like our whole liturgical calendar is like there's a feast day, and leading up to the feast day, there's fasting days, and then you can indulge in better tasting foods than normal.
Like something that we me and Corey do, like not all the time, but like we'll have one day of the week where we go out to a bar or something with a bunch of people, and we'll drink, we'll smoke, we eat some fast food. But we're not doing that all the time. And usually the next day for us, literally we'll have one meal probably at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, because that as soon as you wake up, you more than likely feel like crap from indulging in all the pleasures and stuff. And then like it's a suffer that we do, which is like we're fasting, but also like with fitness and all the stuff ingrained into us, like we know that we have almost enough stuff we indulged in the night before to help us sustain us to the next, like until 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So like we indulge in the one day, and then we fast the next day, and then the rest of that's the reason we can do a lot of our stuff and keep our physiques that we have, is that like 5 to 6 of the days of the week we stick to our strict eating for the first thing that we were saying.
Yeah,
the first thing is
important.
energy, and
The important thing here is that it's never over or extreme over or underindulging. Our bodies are always looking for homeostasis.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in homeostasis for too long, your body starts to deteriorate. So it's good that you have your days of where you do eat a little bit of cake or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if you eat the entire cake, that is the sin of gluttony. Or like even if you eat way more than you should, like getting that. So drinking is not a sin, but getting like actually drunk is. Like to the point, once you're like you no longer have control of like the functions of your mind and your body, overconsumption. As soon as you're eating way too much food and way too much crappy food, when it comes to like just eating sugar and stuff like that, that's like the excess. That's the sin parts. But also it's like we can fast. Fasting is great, but I mean if you're fasting all the time to the point of where it becomes detrimental to your actual health, sin. I mean, that's the depriving aspect of gluttony. So, back on topic to the whole self-improvement, self-indulgence thing.
The thing is, like,
the
you
whole
keep saying
topic
back,
is that.
we kind of are there. So, like, we've talked about the fitness, we talked about food, or, like, your food and fitness, reading. I'm trying to think of some other topics where, like, you can take it to the next level where, like...
Yeah, this all comes back to an unexamined life is one that's not worth living.
Yeah, so there's
By
Socrates.
Aristotle or
one of those two.
Those,
very
Socrates,
similar.
Plato, and Aristotle. I get a lot of their quotes just mixed up, but an ancient Greek philosopher would have said that.
Yeah, you have your typical, like, even when it comes to smoking, you have the typical person that smokes his cigarettes every single day. He is in the self-indulgent, where he is actually going for strictly the drug and the drug only, which is nicotine, stimulant, all that stuff. We're like, we know the fine line when we smoke our pipes once or twice a week when we make our podcast, and we like just try, like, because to not enjoy, what is it, like, you want, like, you're not going through this life to not, you have to have some enjoyment. We're like, we're enjoying this for the flavor, just like
and that's another one of the differences between us and like Puritans, the Amish and stuff like that. They're almost like afraid.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, like being sober is not exactly virtuous. That's sort of like the sin of
you gotta test yourself.
Deprivation. Like, I've heard a lot of people talk about this, and obviously getting drunk's a sin. But a lot of people,
only because
it's an excess for sure.
Well, that, and like a lot of people are like, oh, I hooked up with this girl, or like something happened, or like they blame the alcohol because they were completely intoxicated. Well,
But
you
not
did that on
only-
yourself.
Yeah, not only is the drunkardness a sin, but then all of the things that you're responsible for
Yeah.
in that state, because you willingly put yourself in that state. It's not like you had one drink at the bar and it was. I mean, if you were roofied, it's like, that's
yeah.
obviously something different. But you know, God is just, so He obviously knows our minds and what we're capable of and what we,
Mhm.
you know, what we're thinking in every scenario. But you know, typically like a drunken father will have sons that are either drunks or complete sobers. And the sober will have children that are either sober or drunks because they've never been like been introduced to alcohol. So like
There's that fine line.
the goal shouldn't be to be just like hanging out on the extremes, because then the way you are raising your children, for example, if you're on an extreme, your children are going to be taking either the same extreme as you or probably just running to the other direction. And eventually, that's the whole idea of like being born again, is to stop the generational sins up until your point and go, okay, I'm going to like actually try to bring everything towards the middle and be able to like find that virtue and hope that my kids are able to carry on the virtue and not have to jump from extreme to extreme to extreme for generations. And like that's where the civil wars and revolutions and world wars and they always come from, like those living in the extremes.
That's where like I love that quote, know thyself. Is like you should know. I feel like each human being knows deep down where the line is, and it's like they're the ones that choose to cross that line.
And I don't want to say that like being sober is just as bad as being a drunk. As far as I can tell, being sober is better than being drunk.
Yeah.
But I feel like the point is, now if you're an actual alcoholic and you've almost been like traumatized in your life, like you have this extreme addiction, then in your case, like, yeah, maybe you should at least try to be completely sober at first and like you work away. But for most people, I really think that you should be able to train yourself. That's why I think that children should almost be introduced to alcohol at younger ages by their father in slow increments and only alcohol. Because alcohol is a drug that you can take without becoming completely intoxicated. You can have a sip.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit of wine with dinner, or like, obviously not kids, but like, I think the Germans do 16. I see nothing wrong with age 16. Yeah. Here's some wine.
I mean, we can even say from experience, like our parents let, not like let us, but like they were aware.
Yeah, there was an introduction to it, and then we never ended up going extreme with it.
And but the thing is, like I've talked to our parents before, like especially after college, where I had a roommate. I went to college a little later, and I was roommates with a person that was actually 18, and he failed out of college because he never actually drank alcohol in his life. And when he went to college, he came back. I remember him come back to the dorm all the time, completely wasted out of his mind. Like because he never knew actually how to handle it in like an adult situation. And I'm sitting there like I can go out and have a couple of drinks and come back and perfectly fine because I was introduced to it like. Not introduced to it, like I can't really say that like before 21. You, yeah, like I was able to, like I knew what
you could. Yeah, you knew that it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, overconsumed.
It was something to be enjoyed rather than as a pure drug.
Yeah, like I didn't drink alcohol to get wasted. I was just having the conversation with a guy at the store the other day about, I drink alcohol for the taste. I never really drank it for complete annihilation, basically. And like, okay, like let me get wasted and then make bad decisions and be able to blame it on the alcohol itself. Like, I feel like it does suck that the United States, I feel like, is like that, where like people see alcohol as like I'm drinking this to get messed up, not to actually enjoy it. That's the Miller Lights, the Bud Light, all that stuff.
Now, but America is definitely an interesting nation because I read this book called The Puritan Empire. You should go get it. It's an amazing book. It talks about how like we have this weird religion in our country, like it's an unofficial one, obviously, But we have like the legacy of the Puritans. The name of the book is The Puritan Empire. But the Puritans essentially were like the first ones here. And like we had all these weird Protestant denominations. Like we're in Pennsylvania, it was owned by like the Quakers. Like all these weird Protestant denominations that were like totally like all or nothing in so many different aspects. But America has essentially become secular in the last, really since the Civil War, but especially since World War II. So we have like this Puritanism that exists in us, as well as like this, but it's secular. So like it's Puritanism without God. And so it's half the time you go to college and you're with either complete degenerates or like complete and utter like people that have been sheltered their entire lives. And there's this weird breeding of that.
Yeah, they're on opposite sides of that fine line.
Yeah.
But
it's very naive for people to think that their kids are going to go to any college and they're just going to never drink alcohol.
Yeah.
It's like
it's more of like a joke. Like it's like
yeah, to be a parent and actually think that, I think that is extremely irresponsible.
Yeah.
And you're setting your children up for failure.
Pretty much. And then another thing too is like another topic we've talked about fitness, the reading. Another thing is like the whole like it kind of is under the fitness realm of like where you're starting to take things to like the extreme where it's I think we talked about like
what are you trying to say?
Like the little increments of like improving certain things.
Yeah.
Like the ice baths, the sunning your balls with stuff like that. Where like there are some benefits of like, I mean those are kind of to boost your testosterone. Like there's certain things you can do to improve your life.
Yeah,
but like there is like
up in the
it's like, oh, I have low testosterone today because I didn't sun my balls. Like really, you have low testosterone because of that. Meanwhile, you were up till 2:00 in the morning watching the third season of some like a whole season of Netflix, or you know, you maybe because you ate fast food, like a bunch of stuff.
But it's also the same as people that they blame like genetics, and there are genetic, you know, dispositions.
But they won't blame themselves for the stupid decisions they
like,
made.
I think it's the obsession with the pharmaceutical industry in our country is just give me a pill.
Yeah, they want the quick and easy.
So you have people on the one extreme. Everything is, I swear, everything in America at least, especially near the end of empires, you get the extremes. You either have, I don't care about anything, just give me a pill to answer it, and then you have the people on the other end of like, not only are they like going to the gym and eating healthy, but then they're like doing everything else to like almost like self-worship. And that's basically the whole point of this whole podcast was to pretty much get into that.
Yeah.
Of, you know, where is self-improvement? Where do you start getting pleasure in just improving yourself? Like improving yourself is not bad, but then there's a point where, you know, what about your station in life? Like in the Catholic faith, we have vocations to marriage, the priesthood. Like basically, those are mostly the only two. So if you're not like pursuing one of those, and you're just pursuing something else, that's living outside of nature. You're giving up your station in life, and especially if you're not doing your prayer and, you know, doing what you can to give back to your community, give back to your church, all these different things, people would rather be focusing on every little aspect. And those are the people that you mentioned in the beginning of like, there's people that are in the gym 5 days a week for 2 hours, just trying to like, and it's a sinking ship. I don't know, we've mentioned that. We're dying, if you don't know that.
Yeah.
We're slowly decaying and we're dying. Everybody. Every day. And so whenever you're obsessed with yourself, your physical life, and in the secular age that we're in,
you're wasting your time.
In most minds of people, all that exists is the here and now, no care about the afterlife. They're trying to maintain something that is deteriorating.
Yeah, it's just like a... like even like... I'm trying to think of some other examples that... I mean, I know in the movie Fight Club, we could throw a quick clip of what it was. Tyler Durden points at a picture of like some like Calvin Klein model on the subway. I think they were on. And what was the thing he said? He was like,
He's like, is that a real man right there? And it's like a
yeah,
ripped ass.
Calvin Klein, dude. And what was the quote he said? He was like,
He said self-improvement. I'm pretty sure he said it like that. Self-improvement is masturbation, a recipe for destruction.
Everywhere we went, we were sizing things up. I felt sorry for guys packed into gyms, trying to look like how Calvin Klein or Tommy Hilfiger said they should. That what a man looks like?
Self-improvement is masturbation. Now self-destruction.
something like that.
And I feel like that pretty much goes back to the whole first things. If you don't put first things first, you lose all of it. It's the destruction aspect. Overindulging in the self-improvement, perfecting your physique or whatever in life. Everything should be ordered. That's pretty much the whole point of this.
Yeah.
Our grandfather always said that.
Well,
Everything in balance.
Yeah, he said
Everything in
moderation,
balance.
moderation. Because he'd always be like, how many times you work out a day? I'm like, he asked me, like, at the time, it was 7 days a week. But, I mean...
But we were younger.
Yeah, we were young. We didn't have...
figuring this stuff out.
Yeah, we
How
didn't...
many eggs do you eat? I eat 12 eggs a day.
Like it was all like the beginning, but we knew, yeah, we knew, yeah, we knew where the like I was able to catch myself. I'm like, okay, to what end? I did my bodybuilding meet, I did my powerlifting meet. Like if I knew I wasn't making like a lot of this stuff, like I always tell even the people I've like talked to that are younger than me that are getting into fitness and all this stuff, all the health crap, and I was like, unless like you plan on becoming a professional in this stuff. Like, you need to know, like, almost, I don't want to say, like, almost when to quit. Like, when to stop pursuing that.
Yeah, I think
and just making it, like, a habit of, like, okay, working out's good for your hormones, it's good for everything. Like, okay, go to the gym for this part. Don't be going to the gym and trying to, like, max out on everything because, like, basically it's your ego at that point.
Yeah, I'd suggest, like, if someone is in their 20s, I would suggest 4 to 5 years of, like, you want to, obviously this is like if you're not like married with a wife and stuff like that, like go to the gym, dedicate all of your research to workouts and dietary things, stretching, stuff like that. Focus for years on it and then ease off of it. Get to that point where you're going to have the muscle memory. At first you're going to get all the noob gains, as they call them. As soon as you start working out at probably around the age of 18, probably. I mean, whenever your hormones are in order and you really start actually working out seriously, you're gonna just bloom. Mm-hmm. And then you're gonna start having to fine tune some things, get to a peak around like year 2 to year 3, and then you could probably just maintain that for a year or two, and then ease out of it, and then you should be set the rest of pretty much the rest of your life if you have the knowledge of like the working out, the stretching, and the diets.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that we can learn at this point.
Pretty much.
I mean, it wouldn't be that important. I mean, there's obviously stuff that we can always learn, but like it wouldn't be that important. It's not going to change this whole frame set.
Yeah, I mean, we could keep talking about this stuff, but we're gonna slowly wean off of here. What are you smoking?
Oh yeah, I was smoking some McBaron Black Blend 7Cs.
Right here.
It's a black Cavendish. No, it's right behind me.
Isn't this it?
No, this one.
No, seriously. Show him that one.
Some heavy C's or something like that.
And I'm kind of
7Cs.
Yeah, 7Cs, and I'm kind of smoking. I mean, on this podcast, before this, I was smoking Countryside by Bosley.
Boswell.
Boswell. Wow, I just said Bosley for something. Yeah, Boswell. And then beginning of this podcast, I was smoking this Pennsylvania Dutch Treat, also by Boswell.
And I'm drinking some traditional mead that I made. It's not the best thing in the world, but I got to drink through this stuff because I'm definitely not just going to throw it away. Traditional mead just being, it's oaked. So just honey and oak chips. And this is about a year old. It's okay.
I don't even know if I was really drinking anything here, but like, because this isn't even open up. But I planned on drinking my the Helgen mead from Skyrim, but I got a little too involved in this discussion that I forgot to even crack it open. But
yeah, that's everything for this video.
Yeah, that's it. And We'll come
Follow
back.
us on Instagram, the Chuba Brothers. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.
We'll catch you next time.
Yeah. If you have any questions, put in the comments. Peace.
Peace.